Hi everyone, I'm going to be doing a little lessons learned year-end review, the biggest lessons that I learned during the year of 2023 as we welcome in 2024. It's always good to kind of think back on your year and really write down or focus on the lessons that you truly feel impacted your life in a significant way. It's always kind of enlightening to see the lessons that I've learned more than once, or I continue to learn every single year, or the lessons that I really have just taken on and embraced. So the lessons that I'm going to share today are kind of a mix of career lessons, self-improvement lessons, life lessons. They're kind of going to be all over the place, but I really wanted to share them. So let's get started. All right, first lesson that I learned in 2023. Self-love and patience through challenging roles or challenging times. That is something that I had to go through at the beginning of 2023. The first 6 months of 2023 were really difficult for me because I was given the opportunity to join a very large program, a level of project that was beyond anything I'd ever been a part of. So it was a very difficult time for me as I was trying to catch up with everyone. And I was probably the youngest person on the program by 10 years. So I was really playing catch up and trying really hard to trust my own instincts and trust everything that I knew, while at the same time trying to learn as much as I could to be able to succeed in this role. So I had a very hard time at the beginning of the year. It took, I would say, a year, but at least 6 months to get myself to a place of balance again. Those first 6 months were filled with stress, 16-hour days, lots and lots of overtime, lots of learning and a lot of failing, a lot of critical feedback, a lot of enduring moments of feeling like I wasn't going to make it because I couldn't understand what was going on and I couldn't really provide what was needed out of me. And I honestly thought I was going to fail in that role. Fortunately, I did not. I was able to succeed, but it took a long time for me to have patience with myself and to not be frustrated and not be mean, essentially. I think that's the word, not be mean to myself, to love myself through the difficult challenges. Once I just understood this is not personal, we're all just trying to figure it out here, and giving myself a lot of patience, putting myself back together every morning and saying, this isn't about you. We're all trying to figure it out. Yes, you kind of suck at it right now, but you will figure it out as long as you're genuinely putting in that effort and you are genuinely asking those questions and you are figuring out your direction and just really taking care of myself in that moment and in those roles was a big, big lesson for me because I was so hard on myself and I needed not to be. And the next time that I take a challenging role, it's going to be just as difficult and I'm going to have just as many doubts of myself. But I truly hope that with this lesson from 2023, I will find a place of compassion, self-love, and patience much quicker than I did in this challenging role in 2023. Second lesson, and it kind of goes hand in hand with that first lesson. You can learn anything as long as you are going out there and trying to figure out that answer and implementing it and practicing it as much as possible and putting in those hours, sometimes extra hours, to figure out what you're trying to learn. So I think this is one of those lessons that I keep relearning every year because I keep forgetting every year that I will be able to hack whatever it is that I'm trying to learn as long as I'm doing it with a lot of consistent effort. For whatever reason, I always forget this and I always think that this isn't something that I can learn. And this is in everything, in all places, and not just at work. It's obviously very, very clear at work, but also in, for example, my art. There are a lot of pieces in my head that I wish I could paint or draw. And then I just think, oh no, you can't do that. Those are the other real artists out there who can figure out how to draw a face. Instead of actually looking up art lessons or art videos or techniques, instead of doing that, I just thought, no, that's just not something that I can do, which is absolutely not true. Next lesson. It is okay to write down your priorities or understand your priorities and understand yourself so well and say, okay, I need to take a step back from my career, go a little slower there because right now I am prioritizing something personal. If that is what you genuinely want out of your life, it depends on your phases of life, right? So this year I was getting married and I was planning a wedding. My whole family was coming in from Mexico. We were going to spend a lot of time with our families, and I wanted to take a month off to enjoy them, enjoy my husband, enjoy, that phase of life. I wouldn't say I put my career on hold, but I definitely communicated with my group, with my team, that during this couple of months, I am going to be taking a little bit of step back, not taking on as many responsibilities, not putting on as much in my plate because I wanted to enjoy those couple of months. It used to really impact my identity and how I thought of myself, but now it doesn't anymore. How I think of myself has changed a little bit. Who I am becoming is different than who that, 20 to 30-year-old was with the gung-ho attitude of work and career. Lesson number 4, having the self-awareness to know when you need a little bit more time to learn something new, to become proficient in a role, to take on a challenge. And sometimes being self-aware enough to know not to take on the next opportunity or the next promotion when you're not ready and potentially demoting yourself. I did that this year. I demoted myself a little bit. I had a very, very pretty title, and I just was not ready. And I knew I wasn't ready, and I knew I wasn't willing to put in the time this year that would make me be ready for that role. That if I had taken on that role without being ready, it would have been to the detriment of the project, to my own detriment, because I didn't have the foundation to be in that type of role. And perhaps I would have gained that foundation while still kind of stumbling through that role. But I didn't want to. I didn't want to be that person who kind of, no one respects in that leadership role because she doesn't really know what they're doing, or he doesn't really know what they're doing. They don't have any foundation in that role. And that's not who I wanted to be in that moment. I wanted to really take the time and space to grow into that leadership position that I was being offered or that I had been placed in. And I definitely want that opportunity in the near future. But in that moment, I was not ready yet. Do not lose your sense of confidence or your sense of competency just because you weren't ready for that role. Next lesson, I guess it's lesson number 5, boundaries in life and in your career are okay. Stop coming from a people-pleasing place because you are afraid to lose a project or a relationship, and respect yourself. I think a lot of the times we are very people-pleasing and we don't set those boundaries of, no, I can't take on that project right now because X, Y, and Z, you're overwhelmed with other stuff. Or no, that task is not under my scope. You should be able to take on that role. And same at home or in life, right? It was such a click in my brain to be able to set boundaries in my career. I was not used to that. I was so used to being people pleasing and saying, yes, I'll figure that out. I'll do that for you. I'll do this. I'll do that, blah, 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 blah. But I did learn how to implement boundaries without worrying that I was going to lose a project, lose the respect of someone, lose a specific opportunity or whatever it was. That is probably why I used to take on so much, is because I was always so worried that if I said no, the next opportunity would not come along. Or I was so worried that if I said no, that they would think that I was someone that was difficult to work with and they wouldn't want to work with me anymore. And so I had all of these ideas in my head. Instead of respectfully, setting boundaries, I just allowed myself to say yes to everyone and hope that the people pleasing would get me somewhere and would essentially gain me respect, and people would want to work with me all the time, and I would get all the opportunities in the world. Again, finding your own self-worth and that security and confidence in yourself helps you set those boundaries and know that this isn't the only opportunity there is out there in the world. And by setting those boundaries, if anything, people respect you more. Okay, lesson number 6 from 2023. Conflict is not always a bad thing. Working through issues and having open communication and defending your position is okay. Don't let your anxiety or past traumas surrounding conflict make you shy away from defending your position. Whew, this lesson was really, really hard for me. I just would shy away from all conflict. If someone was arguing in a meeting, I would lower the volume because it was making me so anxious. If there was some sort of conflict through email, I would politely excuse myself and stop responding. Or I would have my boss deal with it, honestly, because I just could not deal with that type of conflict. Conflict used to make me extremely anxious and almost would make me freeze. And like I couldn't move forward with the conversation or finding a resolution to the conflict. If you're in a leadership position or you're in a project management position, guess what? You cannot avoid conflict. That is not something you can do. As much as I love to people please and smile and create a harmonious environment through my projects, that doesn't mean that conflict is completely avoidable, because it's not. And it's always going to be there. And if you're in leadership positions, it's just inevitable. I had to surround my mind around having open communication with people, being able to say your opinion out loud and defend your opinion in a very respectful, try not to bring in your emotions, try to be very, diplomatic, and just lay it out there, but don't let people step all over you. Okay. Lesson number 7, learning how to not lose yourself while managing others and being in a leadership position and still being able to be a strong leader that gives direction and critical feedback. This was such a difficult balancing act, learning how to be a good leader that people want to follow, that people respect, that people want to be in a team with, while at the same time not letting people walk all over you and still instilling strong leadership and being able to provide corrective action with those in a team that are not providing to the team and the project what they're supposed to be providing. Things like that are very difficult. I am still working on this one. It's a lesson that I recognize I need to develop. It's a lesson that has been very evident to me that I'm really good at being a strong leader and motivating others and doing, being part of the team, but I am not so good at the critical feedback, the corrective action, the fact that sometimes as a leader, you have to have very difficult conversations with people in your team, and figuring out that balancing act. Whew, I am still learning it. Okay. Last lesson of 2023, and I think I've said this before in previous videos, but I continue to relearn it every single year. It is okay to let go of old goals and old identities to become more of who you are, to become more of who you are at peace with. I intend in 2024 to be weirder, to be more compassionate, to be more open-minded, to be even more of who I am. And just to be okay with letting go of pieces of you that potentially don't fit anymore. Anyways, those are the lessons that I wanted to share that I learned in 2023 as we go into 2024. Happy New Year, everyone.